All right, folks, it's been a while since I did a sort of a dissertation and a deconstruction of a mainstream Hollywood film. Been slacking off, I need to work on that, but today I have to come out of semi retirement, talk about a movie which came out, a couple of weeks back that I think is one of the most monumentally significant misfires in recent Hollywood history. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say that, there's been a lot of really good stuff coming out the pipes of last year, because I think all the stuff that's getting a lot of hype, like Logan and Get Out, are vastly overrated, but not necessarily bad movies. Just, fairly decent, but nothing great, nothing superlative, nothing that I would put on par with, a truly great work of art like, I don't know. I'll give you a perfect example Aftermath. The latest Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, I think, is absolutely terrific. Great character study. Of course, nobody's going to watch it, but it's outstanding. And I think at the end of the year, I'll do like a recap of what I thought was the most overrated and most underrated movies, and it'll be a great big cluster schmoz, but in the comments section at least. But yeah, it's neither here nor there. We're talking about Power Rangers. Now, here's the thing with the Power Rangers. I'm one of those kids where I grew up watching it, but I was never like a really big fan. I didn't sort of have that part of my psyche where it was like a hugely important. I didn't really buy into the phenomenon all that much. So it's one of those things where I don't really revere it. I mean, I have somewhat fuzzy, optimistically, uh, sort of sincere feelings about the show just being whimsical cheese. But as far as it being like an actually decent product, like, the old Batman cartoon or some of the Spider-Man spinoffs, I never really saw it as anything more than just like junk, easily disposable entertainment. So right from the get-go, we're not really working with a great property, right? We're not working with Spider-Man, not working with Batman, and not working with something actually a little bit of meat to it. We're working with, basically what was nothing more than a opportunity to sell toys and action figures and merchandise tie-ins, which had no sort of, overlying social relevancy, but it was just there. And it was popular for a couple of years, and it's still on in some permutation. I don't really follow it, but clearly this movie, the one that just came out, is kind of meant to sort of capitalize on the whole 1990s nostalgia phase. And that's kind of the problem with the movie because it completely misses out on everything that made the original program worthy of being nostalgic. So too about the Rangers not really being a good show because it really wasn't, but at least it had sort of a fun carnival atmosphere to it, right? It had that certain attitude. It was cheap and cheesy, but it had a certain charm. It felt kind of like Saved by the Bell, where the acting is not good, the storylines are really forgettable, the jokes aren't funny, but it just has like this overall ambiance to it. It just feels strangely wholesome and unrealistic at the same time, and you can't help but look back on it and feel like you're in a safer, warmer time. You don't get that in the new movie. In fact, you get the opposite of that. They tried way too hard to make this, grim and dark and kind of containing a little bit of social justice warrior tendencies, but more on that in a minute. But just watch this movie. I mean, it's just a huge, 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 I think, a colossal misstep in terms of reboots and remakes. And there's been some bad ones over the years. But this one just really takes the cake because they completely just missed out on what the most appealing thing of the Power Rangers license was. And of course, when I have to sit down and actually write down all of the things that your movie did wrong, you deserve a vodcast here going after the product. So anyway, I have 11 primary reasons why I thought the Power Rangers remake really sucked. So I'll try to get through this as quick as possible and not be a while. There's a lot to criticize the film for. All right, number one, probably my biggest concern with the entire movie, the pace was way too slow. This movie is almost 2 hours long. The Rangers don't actually get in their iconic uniforms until the 90-minute mark. This movie has just so much wasted time in it. There's just like useless montages, and there's just this insane amount of pointless exposition, and the action doesn't get going until the movie's almost over, and it's just really hard to sit through. The hallmark of a great movie is it can be something like Ben-Hur, where it's almost 4 or 5 hours long, but it's so good and so well put together, and the story is so well paced that you don't notice it. It's a 4-hour movie. Conversely, if it's a bad movie, even if it's only like 90 minutes long, it feels like it's 90 hours. Power Rangers is 2 hours. It feels like it's more like 20. It just takes forever to get going, and it's annoying, and it's the worst kind of movie. The kind of movie where you just want it to be over with and get out of the theater. Problem number 2, kind of hit on this earlier, way too much subplot. You've got all this exposition about, the kids having arguments with their parents, and you have just like, if this movie is 2 hours long, I'm going to say about 30 minutes of it. So a quarter of the movie is just filled to the brim with totally pointless scenes of the Rangers bonding. Because the whole movie has like this weird, hyper diversity teamwork message. So there's just like this long meandering shots of the kids like around campfires talking about school and their parents and doing chores and homework, and it adds nothing to the story. I mean, it's supposed to be sort of getting the point across that they're bonding. They're going from being completely disparate strangers to being a cohesive team. But I mean, you could do that in 10 minutes. You don't need to invest a quarter of the movie into that. And I just don't really care. I don't really want to know what the Power Rangers backgrounds are. I just want to see them, get in their suits and, getting, robot dragons and fight, crazy, kaiju monsters. That's the appeal. That's what you should have worked on. But you don't get that until like the last 20 minutes of the movie. And even by then, it's really badly done. But more on that in just a minute. Problem number 3, too much monologuing. Okay, if about 30 minutes of the movie is like pointless bonding scenes, I'd probably venture to guess that like at least another 30 minutes of the movie is just long, overwrought, meandering monologues, either from Zordon, who's played by the guy from Malcolm in the Middle. He's also on some other show on AMC or something like that. I don't really care. And he just eats up so much of the movie to like give him like these long lectures about team unity and how bad Rita is. And it just gets annoying. And later on, Jason becomes sort of the de facto leader, and he gives like these long, pointless, overdrawn, melodramatic speeches about why it's important to work as a team, why you got to trust each other, and all this other stuff. And it's just a waste of time. It just slows down the movie to a snail's pace, and it adds really nothing to the overall impact of the movie. Don't change how you feel about the characters. In fact, it actually makes you hate them more because they're so whiny and complainy, and they're trying to save the world. They're too busy, belly aching about although the kids' school being mean to them. Just completely pointless and really drags down the movie needlessly. All right, number 4. Like I said earlier, too many needless montages. All right, so if 30 minutes of the movie is monologuing and 30 minutes is bonding sequences, 2-hour movie, I'm going to venture to guess at least another 30 minutes is comprised of nothing but like these completely pointless montages where the kids are exploring caves, they're going spelunking, and they're swimming underwater. And I guess, if you want to get to like a Kenneth Angerlins, maybe that's kind of like a metaphor for, teen sexual experimentation or growing into adulthood. But it just goes on forever, and it just wastes so much of the screen time. And there's another scene where like, they're actually going through Zordon's spaceship and, just feeling everything out. And it just goes on way, way too long. That whole segment should have been about 4 minutes tops, but it goes on for like 15, 20 minutes, and it adds nothing to the movie and just drags it down. So there is just so much superfluous content in this movie, and it just irritates me to no end. All right, problem number 5. We're not even halfway down the list. This movie really screwed up a lot. And it takes Rita way too long to get in the picture. And here's the thing about this. I think Elizabeth Banks, she's a great actor in, Pitch Perfect, and what else she been in? Wet Hot American Summer. I think she's in Spider-Man. Didn't she play, what's her name? The newspaper gal? Well, anyway, she's in that too. I mean, she's not really a great actor. I mean, she's a good, supporting cast character, but she really doesn't have the gravitas to play like the main villain. And, they just made the character way too goofy. I mean, not goofy like in the cartoon. I mean, like they try to play it seriously, but because, she looks like she has gingivitis growing out of her face, and she's like all haggard, and she's wearing like a, Ivy from Soul Calibur costume, you just can't take it seriously. And she really can't act, and she's not very menacing, and she doesn't really have that much of a presence on screen. She's not a very good, choice for a villain. She comes out as very uninspired. And again, she doesn't really enter the movie as a central character until like you're halfway through it. actually closer to more like an hour and 30 minutes before she actually starts doing things. So that's another big plot structural error. All right, number 6, Alpha 5 and Zordon are both annoying as all hell. And Alpha 5 in this one, he looks like a George Foreman grill with 2 flashlights duct taped to it. If you thought he was annoying in the old show, the live action cartoon, he's way worse and more cloying in this one. And like I said, you got Breaking Bad there playing a giant screensaver and not really adding anything at all to the movie, just being so over the top and hammy and repetitive that every time they're on screen, you can tell they're phoning it in, and it really adds nothing to the story, and you just get bored, and it's really a waste of their talents. And really, their prison should have been minimal, like maybe 2 or 3 minutes screen time each for exposition, and then get to the action. But they couldn't do it. The thing about the Power Rangers is what you want is Pacific Rim, and instead they're trying to give us the Breakfast Club, and that's a huge, huge misstep. All right, problem number 7 out of 11, still going. The CGI effects in this movie are just terrible. I mean, somehow, I don't know why, but I was watching this movie and I'm like, why is it the special effects, and it's mostly CGI, looks worse than the special effects in the 1995 movie? I mean, it looks way more synthetic, and almost like towards the end, and we'll get to that more in depth, it almost becomes almost like Sci-Fi Channel original movie quality special effects. That they spent this much money on a movie and the visuals are this bad and crappy looking is just inexcusable. All right, number 8. I'm going to steal a line from Birdman. The great big quote unquote apocalypse porn finale is just boring. You know, every Hollywood movie has the exact same ending nowadays, and the ending with Power Rangers is the exact same as it was in Suicide Squad, which was the same thing in Ghostbusters, which was the same thing in Batman vs. Superman, which is the same thing in Pixels. We're just on a city street and everything's blowing up, and we've seen it a million times. It doesn't even have relevance anymore. It has no weight. You can't even get excited by it. You know, it just is so hackneyed and so uninspired, and really there's nothing going on in this one. You got really bad special effects. You got like a 200-foot tall, lava monster, which looks like it was made by some, kindergartner with Play-Doh. And, the Zord, actually, you wait the entire movie for the Zords to come out, and when they do, they just look like, random metal crap. It wouldn't look like Voltron, but it looks more like, the Iron Giant, which, is just another sort of disappointing thing about the movie. There's not really a whole lot of stuff driving a reason to watch this movie, but just seeing, how they can sort of update the aesthetics of the live-action show from back in the 90s with modern technology would be one of the bigger draws. And in this movie, they don't really capitalize it at all. It's just super disappointing. All right, number 9. The Rangers just don't gel. And by now, they've completely sort of, rearranged the old Power Rangers hierarchy. Now, the thing is, admittedly on the TV show, the characters were very one-dimensional. You had the nerd who said stuff nobody could understand. You had the Asian girl who was doing the translations. You had the black kid who said black people things. You had Kimberly, who was the girl. And, of course, you had Jason, who was the jock and the leader because he's the white guy. Just, it was very much like Captain Planet. I think this movie actually feels more like an update of Captain Planet than it does Power Rangers, because it's kind of trying to nail like this enforced multiculturalism message, because they went out of their way to make this movie like as diverse in cast as possible. Like you've got this one black kid with autism. He's one of the Rangers. They've changed that, and he's not black anymore. He's the Blue Ranger because reasons. And Kimberly's like depressed, and she's like being bullied at school. And Trina, now she's the Pink Ranger? Not Pink, she's the Black Ranger, I think, or Yellow Ranger. One of those. Well, anyway, she's supposedly supposed to be like Hispanic, or maybe even like Muslim. They never really come out and explain, what exactly her ethnicity is. And there's like literally one throwaway line movie. She's like, well, I'm having girlfriend problems, and everybody's celebrating like it's some huge LGBT milestone. And it's like, it's one line. She doesn't actually do anything like lesbian at all in the entire movie, but people are freaking out like it's some like huge cornerstone for children's citric entertainment. And to be frank, I mean, this movie is so dark and violent and has a lot of really sort of unexpectedly kind of explicit sexual content that maybe it really isn't sort of geared towards kids. Maybe it's kind of beyond their pay scale and their level of comprehension. But anyway, all that to say, You have all these characters with all their quirks and they're all angsty. And basically what they try to do was they try to make it to where it was the cast of St. Elmo's Fire, except more diverse, and they'll have their individual quirks and, mental health problems. And they end up through, some supernatural means becoming superheroes. That was the idea they wanted to run for, make it a little bit darker and more realistic and angsty, but the cast just doesn't gel. You don't really care about any of the characters. They're all boring. Maybe the autistic kid you can kind of root for just because he's a little bit different from what you see in movies nowadays, but beyond that, they're just completely interchangeable. You don't care what they have to say about anything, and there's just not much of a point. Number 10. The dark tone doesn't work. And like I said, it just tries to feel too angsty. The script is trying to hammer home that whole teen disaffection thing, when really the thing that made Power Rangers great was what? It was pastel and campy. This movie is dark and dreary and just sad sack, and all the kids are depressed, and they don't really want to be heroes. And when they do become heroes, it's kind of like in this weird, like, sacrificial, unity, suicidal kind of stuff. I mean, it's really weird the way the movie ends. Like with, the kids basically deciding to accept their fate and fall into the lava to save the community for diversity. I mean, the subplot here, like the political undercurrent here, is really, really bizarre. It's kind of hard to interpret what they're saying. Maybe they do have like some sort of message, but it's just so awkward to deliver, you can't get anything out of it. It's no Zootopia or Angry Birds that can give you that. But it just isn't there. They have the whole wannabe Breakfast Club thing right about a million times, and all these subplots go anywhere. And here's the thing. There's some dark stuff in here. There's some profanity. They drop the S word. We hear the B word. The B word, which rhymes with witch, in a Power Rangers movie. It's like, what? That's not the point, because Power Rangers grew up in that weird, like, wholesome 1950s version of the 1990s, where people didn't curse and everyone obeyed their parents, and everybody went to go get juice bar stuff after school. But in this movie, it's completely just dark and dreary, and just you don't feel good. It's not a movie world you want to visit. You want to get out of there as soon as possible. And this is a huge, I think, a plot error, because you don't want to actually be in the movie world. So what's the point of watching it? And lastly, probably the most minor grievance, but one that really jumps out at you. What was the deal with all of the Krispy Kreme product placement? I know they have the whole donut thing going on, the tie-in marketing in real life, but it's actually used as a centralized plot point, where literally during the heat of battle, Rita gets up, she goes to a Krispy Kreme, and she buys a coffee. That's literally in the movie. It serves no purpose to the script whatsoever other than to get money from Krispy Kreme. And it's one of like the most shameless like product placement sellouts I've seen in a long time, and that's including all the Adam Sandler movies. He's always doing that. So yeah, that's just the big old stinking ribbon on a big old turd sundae of a movie. So yeah, I think Power Rangers, to me, I think in my book, it's probably going to be remembered as like one of the biggest like child marketing misfires like ever. To me, it's as bad. Actually, it's way worse than the Masters of the Universe movie. You all know that was terrible. It's worse than the Dragon Ball movie. It's worse than Garbage Pail Kids, and I actually kind of like that, like unironically, as a sort of unheralded social satire. But that's beyond the point. Fact of the matter is, the Power Rangers remake is really, really bad. It's terrible. If you have kids, don't take them to go see it, because they're going to hate it, and it's boring. It's probably, sort of beyond their comprehension level. And it's just not a fun nostalgia grab, maybe, and since it did kind of underperform at the box office, maybe this is a good sign that maybe Hollywood will steer away from, properties which exist solely to capitalize on something that's pre-existing. But actually, then again, it is Hollywood, and Power Rangers is terrible, and they're not going to learn a lesson, and we'll probably get 3 more sequels, because that's the world we live in, thanks to Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Well, there you go. That's my review. Power Rangers is a terrible, terrible movie, and if you paid money to go see it, basically, you're part of the problem.